Okay, well, hello everybody. My name is Kira, like Rob has said. I work for a company called Forward Moves, which we are a creative and marketing agency for personal trainers and coaches. And essentially, we help set up, optimize, and get your business up and running, or refresh or rebrand and things like that within the fitness and health space. But essentially, what I'm going to be taking you through today is a general overview of Everfit itself, and to make sure that you have everything up and running before setting up your account for a challenge, which will help to know if you guys do need any questions in regards to anything that I go over before we get into the nitty gritty of setting up a successful New Year's challenge. So I'm going to be going through, as you would have seen in like the description of the registration for this masterclass, is just like a bit through all of the different sections in Everfit and being able to provide you with some tips and tricks that we use when we help coaches set up and optimize their Everfit accounts. So if you do have any questions throughout anything that I go over, please pop them in the chat. I will primarily just be going through all of the topics that I do want to cover, and then we'll come back to a bit of a Q&A at the end, and we'll make sure that any of your questions get saved into the chat so that we can come back to them at the end, because I may answer them as I go along as well. So yeah, just pop anything into the chat and we can come back to it. But let's get started into it. So I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, so essentially I'm just going to run through a bit about the client profile in general, as we do sort of find that some of the coaches, when they come through, they're using an external platform to make notes about the client, things to come back to, all of that sort of thing. So we do just like to remind coaches that you can use this notes section here as your own little private notes document for that client. And this is private to yourself. So a really great space to keep things about like their check-in, notes they've made, things coming up, all of that sort of thing. So it's a really great spot to keep any important notes about that specific client that you would like to come back to in the future. And then another great thing to utilize within the profile is any countdown or goal timers within their profile as well, so that they can get really excited about something that they're working towards too. I think this was recently added into the coaches side in Everfit. So it used to only be on the client side on the app. So really great to be able to set that for your clients as well. I do also notice that some coaches don't know that they can manage all of the resources that your client has access to from this section here. So if you do want to check what they have access to specifically without going through all of your different resource folders, this is a great spot to come to just check over what they've got. Also, a really great way to check over your automations that you've set up within Everfit as well, just to make sure that everything is getting assigned as you've set it up with either your automations or your onboarding flow, or if you're using an external integration platform like Zapier to set all of that up as well. Another spot to make note of is I do find that some coaches aren't actually sure where to set like the step target or the goals for measurements and weights and things like that. So if you do come into the separate metrics in here, you can actually set like their step target and things like that all from the section here, which I do find some coaches aren't actually sure where to find that exactly. So this is a really great one to look for and be able to set goals for your client that they will be able to see as well, which is really great to be able to utilize it for them. Then the next thing that I'm going to go over, that's primarily like the main things in the client profile to look over and things that we just find that coaches aren't really sure where they are or where to find them. The only other thing to check over is if you do want to make sure and check over the settings that you do have for your clients, is great to check over what they have visibility to, as you might have different settings for different types of clients. So you can track everything in here for what they have visibility to and everything like that. Then into our library management. So a couple of tips that we do provide our clients with is we highly recommend using the platform like YouTube for your videos. So setting up your exercise library within YouTube, or I think it's Vimeo as well, is being able to utilize the links instead of uploading your video directly, just because we do recommend having it on an external platform that you can utilize anywhere within your coaching. So using setting up into a playlist, uploading all of your videos into YouTube, which you can then get the shareable link, have it unlisted if you don't want it to be accessible by anybody just in YouTube. And then anybody with the link can just view it as an unlisted video in a playlist. And then you've always got your exercise library saved somewhere external, just in case anything happens with your app, your login, anything like that to a coaching platform that you use. Then you've always got it there that you can paste anywhere or send directly and things like that. So really helpful to be able to use that in the exercise library way. But yeah, always really great to put in your own exercise library. If you do have it, we do recommend it for coaches, only because it does just add that little bit of extra value for your platform, for your clients. They get to see more of you. They get to see you performing the exercise how you would like for them to perform the exercise, which is really great as well. But Everfit does have a really good extensive library for you to utilize from the get-go, which is really great as well. Then we do have your workouts and your programs. So this is a really great way to have your workouts easily saved for you to be able to program, which is really great. And then your programming itself, which is really handy to save your templated programs to be able to give them to clients really accessibly, to be able to like make changes and have your templates there. So it's nice and easy to go in and make those changes to your templated programs. So I do have another recommendation for your programming as well. So say you've got this is a 5-week program saved as your template, but you are finding that you do provide like quite a few changes to your template, but you do like to have it there, but you're finding that you don't like to because you do need to update each week separately. So even if you do make the changes to week 1, you then need to go and change all of them separately to week 2, week 3, and so on. What I do recommend is having your template set up in their blocks. So if you have like a 12-week program and you've got 3 4-week blocks in there, I would have weeks 1 saved, week 5 saved, and week 9 saved. And then I would just have those 3, and then I would duplicate it after I make the changes, after I've given it to the client. So that is our recommendation for your programming, just to make it a little bit easier so that you're not having to change each workout separately or delete an entire week and then having to duplicate it, delete it, all of that sort of thing. So that's just like a little tip that we have found really helpful with the programming side of things as well. The other thing that we do recommend is having the tasks saved in your library to make it easier to add to your clients' profiles when you're setting them up, when you're setting reoccurring tasks, all of that sort of thing. So when you do make them in anybody's profile, you can easily save it to your library. And then that way you can save like any notes that you make or any specific selections. You can put in here details about like where to take your measurements or your photos or anything like that. And then you're not having to write that in every single time that you do upload that into a client's profile. So a really great section to use within the app. Then we do also have your metric groups. So this can be really great to utilize when you're looking at a client's profile and you're wanting to compare specific measurements or data in the one little section. So even if we go back to the profile that I have here in the metric settings, it's a really great way if you're just wanting to look at body composition and being able to look at the graphs for all of that in comparison to having all of the measurements in one screen. So really great to be able to assign those metric groups to your client profile to be able to just look at those specific details that you're wanting to look over as well. And then, so And then I know that everybody will be excited about seeing the new recipe library and things like that, which Rob mentioned it got dropped yesterday, which is very, very new. So I personally don't have too much to go over on this section, even if messages do come in about that. So unfortunately, I don't have too much on that. I was having like a little play around with myself, and it is looking really, really great. But yeah, I personally don't have too much to add on that part. So sorry if you do have any questions in regards to that. But we are going to move into the onboarding flows. So onboarding flows are really great to utilize, which I do find a few coaches that have been using Everfit for a while don't actually know that the onboarding flows are an option. So these are really great to be able to set up automatic steps and assignments to your clients as they come on board, with being able to provide different ones for different levels of clients. So if you do have clients that get access to different forms or different resources, workout collections, things like that, it is really great to be able to set up separate onboarding flows. And I will just also say this all does kind of depend on your add-ons that you do have with Everfit and what sections you have available. So I do know that onboarding flows, I think, is only like one onboarding flow for one of the options, and then as you upgrade you can get access to like more onboarding flows and things like that. So it does depend on what your capabilities are and what you do pay for within the app, but this is primarily like if you have everything available to you within the app. So if you do have different community forum groups, if you do have different forms, things like that, all really great to set up within the onboarding flows. You can also attach onboarding messages. This is just the one that we did up for like a subscription based setup. So we don't have messages turned on for those sorts of clients. So I haven't included one in here. But if I was to go back to our general onboarding flow, we've got our bigger welcome form, our medical PARQ form, the onboarding messages, the community forum, the resource collection, warm up, and access into the auto flow as well. So that's kind of what we've done with that one there. And then really great to make sure that you do check the settings of not only onboarding flows, but auto flows and your default settings, which I'll get into a little bit later. But anything, once you set them up, you can also then access the settings page. So really great to make sure if you do have like packages being used, you can add the onboarding flow to the certain packages. If you've got one that is being set as the default onboarding flow, you can set that up as well. So when you do add people in, that is the default one that they will go to. But yeah, so that is the general overview of the onboarding flows and what you can do for them. You can, of course, edit any of the messages to when they get delivered, with the personalization that can get added and all of that sort of stuff as well. And you can add up to 3 messages to be sent. You can set a delay for them, things like that. Then I also will just provide, so you can see how we have actually included a signature field, and the welcome form does actually include the terms and conditions for our clients as well, as we do like to keep this all in one spot. And I will show you how we've actually included that into the welcome form. So what we have done is we have put in like our general questions, make sure that you do sync any of the metrics to the client's profile and make sure that they're required so you do get it. And then at the end here, we have added in a signature field in the form, and we have just pasted the terms and conditions into the question here. And then we've asked for them to sign off at the bottom. So it is a great way to be able to add in your T's and C's for them to be able to sign. Of course, depending on like your payment platform, you can also add some of your terms and conditions there as well. But this is another great way to get them to sign off on their terms and conditions and reading over all of it again. And then you've always got the response in the platform inside Everfit too. So a really great way to utilize adding that in. And that's like our little tip for adding in the terms and conditions as well. And then we are going to jump into utilizing the auto flows and how to get the general basis of them set up. But we will go more in depth into the auto flows in the following on webinars as well. This will just be like a general overview of like tips and tricks of how we set up a general auto flow for clients. And then you'll be able to use this knowledge when we get into the more in detail auto flows regarding a challenge and things like that as well. But we will jump into like a premium client one that we've set up here. So we've got that they're starting out, we've put in their initial starting photos, body measurements, utilizing the tasks to add in PDF books and welcome guides and things like that is something that we highly recommend. So being able to add in resources for them, using the tasks to add links to anything as well, which is really helpful. So if you've got anything that you want them to have access to when they're first coming on board, or if there's anything throughout like their first sort of weeks that you want them to read over or view, it's a really great way to link it in there for them as well. And then also being able to utilize the forms, having your check-in form set up on like the day of the week that they would normally check in. And that way you don't need to assign it for every single client when they come on board to add it into their calendar. You can just set it up reoccurring in the auto flow on the day of the week that you normally provide your check-ins or they need to complete them. And you can add in notes about when the check-in is due by and things like that. You can set reminders, all of that sort of thing. So really great way to do that, especially being able to use the habits that you would normally give to every person that comes on board. This way you can set that up without needing to do it for every person. And then you can just add in specific habits from there for the clients so that there's less for you to do in the setup for that as well. And then we do also recommend utilizing something like monthly check-ins if you are putting in for your clients, like having a monthly check-in available for them. You can also link that in here as well so that it just comes up every 4 weeks. Usually we did used to suggest having like an initial 12, 13 week auto flow for your clients when they first come on board for you to be able to put in like extra guides for them and feedback. But what we have sort of found lately is actually making like a year-long auto flow for your client to be added into that has the initial onboarding 12 weeks at the start, and then being able to reoccurringly assign them the check-in forms, habits, all of that sort of thing ongoing so that you don't ever actually have to like re-add them into another auto flow or take them out and put them into a different one, because your community forums can only link one auto flow at a time for your leaderboards and things like that. So if you are wanting to have every single client that you have in that community forum in the same auto flow to be able to read the leaderboards and challenges and things like that, then we do recommend having like a longer auto flow that has the check-ins, has the habits, has the comments, all of that sort of thing for them. And then if you do have someone that finishes the year-long auto flow, you can re-add them back into the auto flow, but just start them from after all of those like initial messages, the check-ins, the body measurements, the guides that you've added in. You would just add them in after all of that finishes, but then they'll still have about 40 odd weeks that they'll be in that auto flow for without you needing to re-add them into an auto flow again. So that is just like our little tips on using those and how to connect the best to the community forum as best as possible. So yeah, then you would, of course, have different ones for different types of clients. So if they don't get as much added into it and you just want them to have like a daily check-in form for them to complete, because if they're not getting like a full-on check-in with you, then they'll be, obviously that's connected the wrong form, but then they would be able to complete things like that. And it's kind of self-sufficient and self-managed rather than them completing an actual check-in and getting your response and things like that as well. So being able to have separate ones set up, and then of course you can have separate community groups set up for them to link their own auto flow into, and then you can just have like leaderboards running and things like that if they are like a subscription client or like your challenge clients having their own one connected as well. But that is our general overview of our auto flows and like our recommendations for those. Then I will just go over the resource collections and the on-demand workouts. So A big one that we do recommend for these, so this is really great to be able to have set up nice and cleanly before your challenge starts as well. So having it nice and neat and separated is a really good way to also compare and give comparison to if you do have a lower ticket client compared to a premium ticket client. So what we sort of recommend, like say you have resources that have full recipe books and you only want to give the full recipe book to the premium clients, you would add that in here that your premium clients have access to. And then say for your subscription clients, you could just add a couple of the recipes into there, and it gives them like a little bit of a taster of just the one recipe, and say like, our premium clients got access to an entire recipe book. Here's a couple of recipes just as like a little taste. And it kind of gives that want of to be in the premium group, because the lower ticket ones like aren't getting as much as the premium ones are. So it can be like a little bit of an upsell to be able to use the resource collections just to be like, this is what you're missing out on kind of thing. So really great to have the resource collection set up in a way that is ready to go, so that you can put it into the onboarding flows and your automations to make sure that you've got them all ready for what they need access to, and the guides and things like that. The other recommendation that we do have when you are uploading resources into Everfit is make sure that you are compressing the files before you upload them. So you can just use like an online PDF compressor, which will reduce the size of your PDF for you before you upload it. So it does load quickly for your clients and just creates like a better in-app experience for them. Otherwise, if you're uploading like a 15 megabyte PDF file, they'll be sitting there waiting for it to load for a really long time. So that's just a nice little small tip that we give our clients just to help improve the customer experience on their end as well. And then we do have the on-demand workouts, so which you can put into like workout collections. So this is a really great way to be able to provide like extra like warm-up videos, cool-down videos, stretching, all of that sort of thing, like to your clients, to be able to add extra value without you sort of needing to add it to all of their programming. So if you are normally adding in like a warm up to every single workout within their programming and they have to like tick it off every single time, if you're not sort of wanting to do that in the client programming, then you can do something like this. And then you can let your clients know like, hey, in your workout collections, you can actually access like the warm up videos for upper, for lower, all of that sort of thing. So they can actually go and view it at any time without needing to say, watch a stretching thing like in their programming or being given to it, and they can access it whenever they like as well, which is a really cool way to be able to add that feature to your clients. So they're like the on-demand ones, and it's like kind of like the click and play for like video workouts and things like that, which is really great to use. And then you have your studio programs, which is like how Everfit explains it as like your Netflix style of training. So they can go in and chop and change between which program that they want to follow, which works really, really great as a subscription-based option. So recommending to get working on the programs that you want to have available in your challenges, and probably suggesting having them in the studio program if you are wanting to have it as options available as they're choosing their programs that they do want to follow for your upcoming challenge. If you're going to have really specific home or gym program and it's just one of the other for the programs, then you wouldn't necessarily need to add it into your studio programs, and you can actually utilize your onboarding flow to give them which program you would like to assign them to. So you can actually go into like your welcome form and set up a question that says like, are you training from home or are you training from gym? And depending on which one that they choose, you can then give a conditional assignment based on their answer to provide them with the program that they're going to be using for that challenge. So really great way to utilize that if you're not going to be utilizing the studio programs. So a really great way to do either of those. And of course, if you are running a challenge and you are adding in the programs for your clients, just manually then you can, of course, do that instead of using the studio programs as well. But really great way to have a subscription option for your clients where they can just like plug and play kind of thing and choose as they would like. Perfect. So just going to do a little bit on community forums. We have kind of touched base on having them separately, having leaderboards attached, things like that. We do recommend that you do utilize the community forums. It's a really great way to increase engagement with your clients. And then being able to provide like a space for them to chat, talk to each other, and just provides like that little bit of extra care like to your clients, creates excitement, things like that, especially by connecting the auto flows to this as well, for you to be able to give them challenges and things like that. So you can go in and connect the auto flow, and then from here you can set goals and stuff like that. So you can add in like what the current challenges are for the step goals and things like that, for what you would like to set. And then people get really excited about like where they're coming and all of that stuff in there. So also you can schedule your posts, which is really great, which we recommend. So start of the month, go in there. If you've got something that you want to be able to post out every single week for your clients and be like, putting out polls, putting out posts for them to be able to answer, like what's your goal for this week, mini goals, things like that. Just, it can be really anything. And it's a great way to be a little bit more casual with your clients as well and create that really good relationship with them, because it's just like having a space for them to be able to ask questions. If you do have like friends or family that you do have within the app, if you can like ask them to be like, hey, are you able to help me out? Like if you can start like engaging in the community forum with me, if you're just trying to like get it off the ground, just asking people that you know, if you do have them in as clients, and just say, hey, like, can you post this question for me? And things like that, because once other people see others asking questions, you'll actually be able to find that you can get more interaction and engagement from other people because they've seen others do it. So we find that that does help regarding to getting your community group like up and running and things like that as well. So of course you can have like your different community groups available. It can be a little bit more to manage if you do have separate ones added in, but it's a great way to be able to, create more engagement and communication with your clients. Then I will just jump into packages quickly as well. We will, of course, go a little bit more in depth around the packages when we do go into the challenge setup. But this is a really great thing to look at before you do get really stuck into setting up everything for your challenge. My recommendation for setting up the packages is upload and get your sequence created first. I hope I've spelled that wrong. Get your sequence created first of everything that you do want to have included with the package prior, because you will need to add in your sequence to your package to make it live. So get your sequence started first, have when it's going to be started on. If it's like a subscription-based program and you want them to just start whenever, then you would just do it from immediately, if it doesn't really matter like what day of the week or anything like that is. Or you can have it that it starts the following Monday. If you do want, say, your auto flow to match up on certain days, then I would recommend having it starting the following Monday so that the auto flow then starts from a Monday. If you do have messages or events that match like the day of the week, then I would recommend doing that. And then, of course, how long you're providing access for, all of that sort of thing. So getting that added in, and then any of your resource collections and assets that you're wanting them to have access to in here as well. So adding all of that in, ready to go. And then when you're ready from there, then you would go in and make your package. So I'm just going to make this one quickly. And then putting in all of your details, your pricing, and then you can add in your sequence that you're wanting to be attached to this package. So that's all ready to go, because you can't do that one after, kind of thing. And then setting up the payment schedule that you want for this as well. So one-time payment or reoccurring subscription. Of course, double check if it is a one-time payment, make sure that your access correlates with how long they're paying for. So in your settings of your package, make sure that they only have access like for that time kind of thing. So let's just pop in that there so that I can publish it and just go over the settings for you as well to publish that one. And then great thing to be able to check is the settings in here. So really good to go over and make sure you know what the settings are in here, because you can attach the onboarding flow that you want to be connected to this package. If you want to set a purchase limit for the clients, and if you do want to create like a group tag so that when they do purchase this, it does assign them with a group tag so you know that they're in the subscription clients as well. And then having the reactivate the client if they are a previous one. So it will actually archive them when they finish a previous package. And then if they repurchase it, you do want this to be ticked. Otherwise, it doesn't actually unarchive them when they repurchase a package as well. So really important to check over your settings prior to it being live, just so you know how everything is set up as well. But yeah, so that is just like a brief overview of the packages and sequences to have a look over prior to having everything set up, so you can kind of get a feel on how everything is prior to getting into the challenge setup and the nitty-gritty on it as well. Actually, the other tip that I do have for the packages, is on a note of the monthly or weekly payment options for you to have, is we do actually have a recommendation for weekly versus monthly, if you do have it set up that way, is if it's a subscription-based offer, we recommend more so doing a monthly based pricing. That way people are paying month to month rather than week to week, and you will have that longer payment paid for ahead of time, so that you are getting like a whole month paid in full rather than getting a week at a time and then people just canceling off from week to week. So that's our kind of recommendation, is that like, you know that you're going to have the entire payment of a month upfront, instead of week to week and people canceling off here, there, and everywhere. And also if you're allowing people to self-cancel, that is as well. But that's kind of what we recommend on that side of things as well, just as like our little tip. And then just a brief overview like of your settings. Like I know that I've mentioned a couple of times going over the settings of everything, which I find is really important, especially in your default settings. So you do want to make sure that you have your time zone saved and the date settings that will show up in like your forms and your questions and things like that for your clients. Because I know, being Australian based, we do get caught up in the month and the days being mixed around the wrong way for us. So you'll have people put in dates that are not correct. So I know if most of you are American based, it will automatically be month, day, year for you guys, which is really helpful. But yeah, we find that we do need to change it quite often. And then making sure that you do go through your default settings in Everfit as well. Some say that we're normal. Yeah, we're normal for having day, month, year. So going over your default settings in here is really important. Because anybody that comes on board will take over these default settings. And a really big one that I have noticed is making sure you have your metrics checked and added for the ones that you do want to collect for your clients before they get added in. Because if you add in your clients or they're already in there and then you update what metrics you want to collect, when you go to select them in their profile, if you want them to upload them, it actually won't come up in their profile. And you will actually need to go to their settings and check their own body metrics that you're collecting. So you can even see these ones are different to the default metric settings. So really important to check over before your clients come in of what you actually have in your settings as well. And of course, these are the default settings in general, but if somebody does join an Autoflow, they will actually take over those settings in the Autoflow as well. You can turn this off, but they will take over the settings that are in here. So you can turn off the settings that change and it will just go to your default settings, but make sure you have checked this to know if it will take over or not. Because if you've got a subscription-based user and you generally have messages turned off and they've joined an Autoflow with messages turned on, then they will get access to messaging and things like that. Like it will turn on for them. So a really good one to check over in your settings to make sure that you know what's going to happen within that as well. And then, yeah, your exercise library, how far in the week that they can see, all of that sort of thing. And then another great feature that we do find that coaches don't actually know is the task section that you can use within Everfit as well. So you can actually add in tasks, set a due date, set color dates, things like that, color tags, because we do find that a lot of coaches make a mental note of, oh, I need to message that person back in a week and check how they're going with their injury or their check-in or an event that they had or anything like that. Or I don't think there's anything set up where you can like put in like birthdays. So like you can add in, send that person a message about their birthday or a week out or whatever it is. You can put it in here, give yourself a due date, and then you can come back to it and it will then have all of your tasks in here. It will have your completed tasks, all of that sort of stuff. So really great feature to be able to use instead of having your notes and reminders somewhere else. You can have it all in here. And then in the custom branding, so if you do get custom branding, we do recommend having this set up. It just creates it to look more like your own app as much as possible without obviously going to like the white label and things like that. But being able to set up the colors and opening splash screen to be really tailored towards you, all of your workout backgrounds. So being able to select different ones for different workouts, having your logo within the app icon, which is a really great one to be able to change over to your own, to have you on the screen of their phone. And then the welcome video is actually a really good one to keep in mind as well. If you do want to personalize the video for when they first log into the app as well. So a really great way to welcome them personally into the app by uploading a video, or if you upload to YouTube or Vimeo, then you can have that connected so that you're actually welcoming into the app, which is really, really great. And then I think that is pretty much everything. Oh, I will just touch on Zapier quickly. So Zapier, I'm not sure exactly which way people say it, but this is a really great feature to be able to use. I will make note that having the paid version of Zapier does help as well, because sometimes you do need a little bit of filter functionality or formatting functionality depending on what task that you want to do. But if you are looking at using some automation with Zapier, it's a really great app to check out the automations that are capable between other platforms if you are using external payment platforms and things like that, to be able to invite them into the app, get them into like programs, things like that. You can do all of that sort of thing with Zapier. They are a little bit finicky to set up and use. So it does take like a little bit of playing around and understanding of Zapier and possibly learning how to use the formatting and filtering and things like that. I still get stuck and I use it all the time. Fun fact, I'm the only one in the team that does do Zaps for our clients, because the other girls don't want a bar of it because it can be quite tricky to set up. So yeah, that is a great way to have those set up as well. So that is essentially everything that I was going to run through inside Everfit. Thank you everybody that came on and joined the call and asked questions. And looking forward to the next webinar where we can kind of delve into a little bit more in detail about setting up a challenge and our tips around that as well.